It is a distinct pleasure for me today to welcome Professor Dr. Lisa Fröhlich to the PRME Deans Dialogue. Lisa Fröhlich is a president and professor of strategic supply management at CBS, Cologne International Business School, and also a PRME board member, a chair of the PRME Board's Nomination and Governance Committee, and also chair of the PRME chapter DACH, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So a warm welcome to you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to have you joining me here today for a conversation about sustainable development and the work with PRME you engage in at CBS International Business School. I know that you have a strong engagement in sustainable development for a number of years, and that you have across your three campuses in Köln, Mainz, and Potsdam. And I know that you have engaged your students in a number of different activities on sustainable development. So I would like to start off by asking you more generally about your school's strong commitment to sustainability in general, how you would describe that engagement.
Thank you very much, Mette. First of all, the pleasure is completely on my side that I got the opportunity to discuss with you some RME topics. We have at CBS International Business School, we have a kind of very long tradition when it comes to responsible management education. We started now almost 10 years ago with one of the first chairs in Germany dealing with sustainable management and ethics, we called it at that time. This was the starting point for a lot of developments. And right now we have the CASM, which is the Center for Advanced Sustainable Management, where we try to integrate our academic colleagues, our students, and also our employees of CBS so that we work together on different sustainability issues. And we are right now also in the process of setting up a more advanced reporting system. This should be then the basis for further development.
I sort of, again, based on my own experience with working across a school like yours on sustainable development, working across disciplines, I was going to ask you, how do you motivate your faculty to do that, and how do you engage in that? I can see you have 11 English master programs and also 11 German taught master programs. So I'm sort of envisioning that there is a lot of different specialities, right from digital strategies to tourism and to strategy management and so on. So how do you work with your faculty to engage them in sustainable development?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, but we have different activities in place, let's say. First of all, due to this long history of sustainability at CBS, we have, first of all, developed a so-called integrated curriculum. So sustainability is part of everything. No? So if you have a, let's say, introduction lecture in marketing or HR, our colleagues, they have to come up with one or two lectures within the semester dealing with sustainability issues. So like sustainable communication or diversity issues in HR. So this is mandatory. So this is part of our module descriptions, and our colleagues have to do this. So I'm honest, I had some serious discussion, especially with our finance colleagues, that they say, okay, this is nothing we are really believing in, but after we had discussed this very profoundly, let's say, they are also right now convinced that at least in some areas it really makes sense to think about this, and especially with all the reporting systems, so that we need numbers right now, and with the sustainable development goals, so we need somehow kind of evidence, and maybe you have heard this, that now in Germany we have this Supply Chain Act, which is from the lawyer's point of view not the best solution right now. So we have to redefine some of the paragraphs, but it's here now, and now we need some kind of let's say, visibility of certain activities, because we have to find a system to say, okay, this company is doing a good job, the other one not. So this is very important. So these numbers, KPIs, are desperately needed in this context. So that's definitely important. So That's one thing. Based on the curriculum we have in place, the colleagues are forced to do this. Then we have also our research cluster. We have a cluster systemization, so we have different areas where the colleagues are doing research. And the central cluster is sustainability. So sustainability is influencing, impacting all other areas. Yeah? So then we have sustainability in the value chain, sustainability in HR and leadership, sustainability in finance, in rising economies, for example. This is the other thing. So all the colleagues are somehow aware of this. And I personally, due to the fact that I'm responsible for all the processes to get in new professors, I always ask them the question, what about sustainability? Yeah, how are you somehow integrating sustainability in your research, in your lecturing activities? And if those kind of potential colleagues say not at all, then the probability that they will be part of our collegium is quite low. Yeah, so let's say it like this, because it's really hard to be part of CBS if you are not somehow at least understanding the importance of sustainability, because it's a lot affecting all our activities. And this is very often a very interesting point when I discuss with colleagues from all around the world, because they always ask me, how do you manage to get in all the professors? Yeah? And the simple answer is because we have such a long history. Yeah? And for us, it's a very important aspect before you start working at CBS. And once you're at CBS, you got somehow inspired by all the other colleagues. So that's, I would say, our recipe behind this.
So that's very, very interesting. I think that you sort of actually engage from the onset with in the recruitment process to focus on sustainability. But what about the students? Again, students, true international crowd, you are based in Germany. But do the students also ask for sustainability?
Yeah, we have a very, very strong initiative. It's our CSR student team, and they are almost 100 students. Yeah, and they are organizing different concepts, diversity events and diversity and inclusion events, because we have around about 70 nations on campus. So without Corona, as I hope this will be the case then sooner or later again. But that's very difficult to manage, because they have all different cultural backgrounds, and to integrate them, for example, in my master class right now, I have 25 different nationalities, and then I have group work. That's not so easy, yeah? So because you have to deal with a lot of conflicts which are not based on the content of the lecture, but based on the cultural background of the students. But on the other side, I always sell them this kind of trouble as a very, very big advantage, because later on, once you start working, you have to operate in international teams, and nobody's asking you if it is working or not. They want you to work, to make it work, and that's it. Yeah. So here in the university, you can try it out, yeah, and you are perfectly prepared for the future. And especially with the German students, yeah, you know, they are very strict, and they are very motivated, and they always want to have good grades and so on. Yeah? And then they're always complaining about other nationalities. They are not having the same, let's say, work attitude like they have. And I said, yeah, but that's life. Yeah. So later on, your boss is not really asking for this. Yeah, you have to find a solution for this, and now try it. Yeah, see, there's a huge opportunity to be prepared for what is waiting for you then when you start working. And to give you another example, we have career days for the different areas, and I'm responsible for the career day in supply chain management. And the companies are always complaining, yeah, because they say, we haven't been prepared for all these questions. They ask us about our sustainability vision, our strategies, how we deal with suppliers, how they know about this. I said, yeah, because that's part of their lectures. Yeah. And they know that multinational company with 10,000 suppliers, yeah, if you only assess 10% of them, this is worth nothing. Yeah. So, and they know what kind of questions to ask, and which makes me always very proud, because from my point of view, we can really make a difference with those kind of students, yeah? Because they are now pushing the companies in the right direction, because we have this war for talent, especially in Germany. We need also the students from all around the world, yeah? Because we don't have enough experts in the country itself. So it really makes me smile all the time when I listen those kind of conversations, and yeah, they force them to do a lot more in terms of sustainability. And a lot of companies know they cannot hire really qualified, competent people in the future if they are not improving their sustainability level they are working on.
But that is such an interesting push, you could say. That's the push. In this case, we always hear that the push for business comes from governments or from big suppliers and so on. But in this case, one push also comes from students. And I think that is really interesting. I would be curious to understand more about your engagement with businesses in general, because I know you are a private business school, and I know you have a lot of engagement with businesses, with big companies, with small companies, and how do you engage the businesses in the student work, and perhaps also more generally in the school's work on sustainable development?
Yeah, this is definitely something which is a little bit different to other business schools around the world. First of all, business school is not a kind of very highly valued term in Germany, because we basically have a public-owned university, and the private ones are not that respected, because they always tell us, okay, from the quality, from the research output, you're not as good as the public-owned universities. But this is changing. And we have also two different types. We have universities of applied science and universities, and we are a University of Applied Science, and we are asked to integrate businesses. So most of our bachelor and master theses are together with companies. We have so-called capstone courses in our curriculum, where we have business projects. So companies, they give us a kind of concrete problem they have. For example, our master in sustainable management, the students are now working on a sustainability strategy for the city of Cologne. This is one possibility. So they are working on a concrete problem, and they are offering solutions. And therefore we have this huge mix between research, teaching, and then the companies, and they can directly learn something, or they can use a strategy the students are developing, and they can directly implement this. Or we are also working together with a lot of energy companies where they are introducing sustainable procurement strategies. Sustainable finance is also a very huge topic in a lot of companies. We work together with a lot of startups. We have at CBS a very high quota, is more than 10%. Of students who have their own startup after they finish the studies here, which is quite high in Germany. So the regular quota is around about 3 or 2%, something like this. So we have a lot of students setting up their own business, and this is basically something to do with sustainability. So that's also very, very interesting. So that they try to come up with a new business here, which is also supporting this. So we have a really huge, let's say, connection to also Chamber of Commerce, the city of Cologne, and all the companies working there, and some other institutions where we have access to a large number of companies. And therefore, it's for us quite easy to introduce this sustainability idea. And coming back to your statement before, this is what we always taught our students from the very beginning, that we said, all our colleagues strongly believe in the idea that it's the responsibility of the companies to tackle sustainability. It's the government is only giving us a framework, like with the supply chain law. That's really necessary because we need a kind of common starting point for everything, and we have to make sure that companies are not capable of circumventing certain activities. That's perfect, but the innovation never comes from the government. The innovation basis is always the company. So the companies have to come up with those kind of ideas. And this is, I know this is not always common understanding. And I definitely also have colleagues outside CBS with a completely different understanding. But this is what you also have to explain the students, yeah, that sustainability is something, it's not like a textbook for accounting, yeah, so that you read the textbook and then you know how accounting works. Yeah, in sustainability, it's all about discussion, yeah, and being curious and thinking about different points of view and bringing this together and trying to come up with a new idea. This is what is important. Yeah? So this is where I always try to focus on when I'm teaching, that the student understand this, that they have to collect information, that they have to be curious, that they have to think about different aspects seriously, and not simply believing, okay, this is what she told us in the lecture, so that's the truth. So this is unfortunately not the case with sustainability, but on the other side, therefore, it's also so interesting, to teach those kind of subjects.
Yes. So do you? I think this engagement with students and also the high amount of startups following their degree from CBS is very interesting. So do you have many examples of some of the projects from students that are actually going to be lived and get into practical reality amongst businesses? And do you somehow account for this? Because I think it would be very interesting to sort of think about, when we do think about business schools as one of our impacts, the highest impact is what our students do when they enter business life or when they enter organizational life. But it's very difficult to account for that impact. So I was just curious to understand how you engage with that.
Yeah, that's not so easy, but to give you one example of, we have a funding program. It's called Exist. This provides the students with a very satisfactory salary, let's say, for 1.5 years, and then they can develop their idea. And our first team got funded, I think, 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And it is called Green for Me. So they help people living in cities to make their balconies a little bit greener. Yeah? So in terms of having your own strawberries, let's say there, or helping to bring down the temperature within the city, because then you have a few more trees or whatever on your balcony. So you had different concepts. And I was really laughing a little bit about this idea and that they got funded, but now they are so successful because this is exactly what is needed right now. Yeah, and this urban gardening, our students won a prize last year, and we have our own urban gardening project right now at our CBS campus. Yeah, and this is all because of this initiative with this Green for Me. Yeah, and we also have very, very famous founders. So the first coding university was founded by former students of us. Yeah, and we have a lot of examples, but I'm with you. We are not really using this as, let's say, lighthouse examples, to motivate others to follow those kind of examples. Let's say it's starting now, because now the students are aware of that we have very famous founders, and that we have very good examples. And I also had a very interesting master thesis last semester, because my major field of research is green procurement. And my hypothesis was that most of the green startups, they always think about the product or the service they are selling, but they are never thinking about their procurement processes. It's obvious, because in the beginning you don't have time for this and they don't have the expertise, but they're ruining every green impact on the sales market when not thinking about the purchasing processes from the very beginning. And we had a really good master thesis from a really, really good student, very interesting results. And we are now working on establishing also a startup with this idea to support startups with green procurement processes. And the second point I would like to mention here, I will not mention names, but I was so proud of this student because he was really good. And he got so many offers from the industry, and he decided to do a job for a sustainable startup, knowing that he will not earn that much money. But he said, this is exactly what I want to do. I believe in this idea, and I strongly believe in the possibility that I can make this startup really, really great after a few years. And I was so proud of him, and I'm always using his example because I said, this is exactly what I mean. And therefore I'm so, let's say, optimistic about the future, because a lot of our students have exactly the same attitude. And they say that it's not about money, it's not about being important from the very beginning. I want to this purpose-driven, society right now, that they say, okay, I want to do something good. I want to do something which I really believe in. And how much money I earn or what kind of position I have is then the second important question, and not the most important one for me.
No, that's very promising with students like this, that indeed. Lisa Fröhlich, I would like to ask you here towards the end of our conversation about your personal engagement with sustainable development, because I imagine it must take a lot of personal, have a personal drive to do so much on the sustainability agenda as a president of a business school.
Yeah, but that's the same thing, because I believe in this. I know that we have to change something. I have a daughter, she's 21 years old, and I really want her to have the same life like I had. And we all experience this right now, how difficult this situation with COVID is for the 20, 25 years old right now, because they do not really believe in their future anymore. And I think that's our responsibility, that we find some ideas. And I'm too old for this. Yeah, I know about this. Yeah, so I can go on like this, and it will not affect my personal life. But I can do so much, or I can change so much with the teaching and the research. And this is what is motivating me to make it better and to bring this in, because again, I'm also on a level, let's say, right now, where I really think about not money anymore, because my daughter is now almost done with her studies. My house is paid, so now I really think about what can I do to really contribute to a common sustainable future. And COVID-19 made me think a lot more, because especially when we talk about the supply chains, what is my area? It's man-made. What we did here is only a consequence, or COVID is only a consequence of what we did within the last 10 to 20 years. And we have to change this. Otherwise, we have an issue. And this is my purpose-driven, let's say, concept. And I hope that I have a few more years where I can make a difference. And this is also why I like Prime so much, because I have this exchange with really high-level researchers and lecturers from all around the world. And I think this is needed, because next step is we need this cultural exchange, because sustainability means something completely different to different cultures, and we have to find a common understanding about what does those kind of differences really mean for us, and what can we do in terms of achieving climate change activities and so on. So this is a huge task before us, but I'm ready to take the challenge. Let's say it like this.
I'm glad to hear that, because we need your support also in the future. So I know that, I heard you say that COVID made you think a lot more. I also know that COVID made you read a lot more.
That's true,
My last question here to you would be, what are you reading today? And would you recommend a good book for the rest of us to engage in?
So the one I'm reading right now, so I'm always mixing it. I'm reading let's say, more academic book, and I'm always reading a novel or something like this, which makes then life a little bit easier. But the one book I'm reading right now, because I also want to have it or I want to use it for my lecture, is, I don't know if you know it, this the German title, if I translate it, is Good Economics for Hard Times, from these two Nobel Prize winners. And that's really interesting, because A lot of stuff they are writing there is exactly what I'm teaching my students already. So I hope that this is somehow affecting in the long run the way how we teach business at universities. Very, very interesting insights. And there is another book which is a little bit depressing, but I think it's worth reading, Leave the World Behind. So there was a huge hype about this book, but it's a novel, but it's coming back to really some basic questions. So about how to bring this together with class and races and how things are changing us if they become threatening, let's say. Yeah, so this is, we always believe we are good people, yeah, and we are always sticking to the rules. But the problem is if a situation shows up which is completely destroying our beliefs and ideas, and how we then react, this is a really interesting question, and it's very well explained in this book. So sometimes I have to stop reading it, yeah, because I don't want to think about it anymore. But I think it's very important because, especially within this COVID crisis, we really have to think about and ask ourselves what really matters in our lives, yeah, and how do we want to have our future. So, and this book really helps to start thinking about this.
Lisa Fröhlich, thank you so very, very much for a very inspiring, taking us through some of the challenges and some of the many opportunities that you are catching at the Colonia International Business School with your students, with your faculty, and also with the businesses in the local and community and beyond. And even a personal recommendation here on a couple of good books for the rest of us to read. Thank you so much. It was a true pleasure to have you in the PRME Deans Dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure was completely on my side. Thank you.